Hey there, I'm Avip. Welcome to the audiobook of my fanfic, Muitiverse Crafter. I don't own RWBY or any of its characters. This is a non-profit fan project made just for fun and shared for free. All rights belong to their original creators. Before we start, I want to let you know that since I'm not fluent in speaking English yet, the narration is AI generated. I hope you still enjoy the story and the world I've created. Thanks for listening.
Chapter 28, I Need Painkillers and a Lawyer. Point of view, Nikos. When Jaune was suspended, I was appointed by Professor Osbin as the provisional leader of Team JNPR. On the day, I thought the action was unnecessary. After all, Jaune would only be gone for 2 weeks, and we still had plenty of time before the exams started. What kind of work could I have in such a short time? Nora Valkyrie, I exclaimed, my patience already exhausted. Get out of that bed now. I have just one job, to ensure my team attends all the classes. Just 5 more minutes, murmured Nora sleepily. Last week, Ren and Nora missed the first classes in the morning for 3 consecutive days. I tried waking them up earlier and rushing them to get ready so they wouldn't miss the class, but it was all in vain. On the 4th day of being late, I gave up and decided not to try anymore. Professor Osbin did not appreciate this idea, and threatened the entire team JNPR, including Jaune, with a week of detention for every day Nora and Ren were late. You could at least help me, Ren, I questioned, frustrated. What makes you think I have any choice here? Said Ren in an irritated tone. You're the one spooning her from behind, I complained, pointing at the two lying together. She's holding my arms, he said, trying to free himself from Nora, but his partner was stronger and kept a firm grip on his arms, preventing him from freeing himself. Since they made their relationship official by breaking Jaune's bed, Nora and Ren have joined their beds to sleep together. I have nothing against it and even envy. I'm happy for them, but it's starting to bother me, just a little, seeing these two's displays of affection. The way Ren feeds Nora breakfast, the way Nora brushes Ren's hair before bed, and the worst of all, which is causing problems now. Nora and Ren spoon for hours, resulting in recurring tardiness. You will be on time, I murmured, threatening the two, even if I have to drag you out by force. Ren looked at me cautiously, worried about my tone, while Nora ignored me and snuggled into Ren's arms. Frustrated, I approached them and reached out to where Nora was holding Ren's arms around her. Chompy. Nora, I shouted, horrified. Did you just try to bite me? Keep your hands off my ninja femboy, you homewrecker, Nora threatened without moving. Femboy, I questioned, astonished. Don't ask questions you don't want the answers to, Ren said in a tired tone. Has Nora been reading Blake's books? Mistralian comics, to be exact, he replied, almost pornographic trash. How dare you, Nora declared in a dramatic tone. Do not insult this distinct form of art. Damn, I complained internally. I need to change my strategy. Thinking of a new plan, my eyes met those of the green-clad ninja. Ren looked back at me with a raised eyebrow, suspecting I might be plotting something. Asking him to go against Nora is a waste of time, I thought internally, so let's focus on Nora and her soft heart. Is there nothing I can say to convince you? I asked in a heavier tone. Nope, Nora replied, all smiles. Starting my act, I sighed tiredly and turned my back. I understand, Nora, I said in a sad tone. I can't force you to give up your morning cuddle routine. Yep, Nora responded, happy as can be. Even without seeing her face, I knew she was smiling in her beloved's arms. Part of me hates the envy for this. I just hope Jaune can forgive me for my incompetence, I said in a dramatic and sad tone. Behind me, the couple whispered to each other, questioning my behavior. I know I've failed as a leader, and Jaune will hate me for my incompetence. Nora and Ren sat up in bed, worried about their friend's sudden change in mood. What are you saying, Pyrrha? Nora asked, her voice full of concern. You're the most amazing girl in all of Beacon. I turned around, pretending to wipe away tears with my fist, still feigning sadness. But I can't get you to class on time, I lamented loudly. And now, when Jaune returns, he will be punished because of me. I finished speaking, bringing both hands to my face while fake crying loudly. Nora got out of bed and came to hug me. Don't cry, Pyrrha, please, she said, trying to calm my fake desperation. We won't let you feel this way, we'll try harder to be on time. Right, Ren? Still in Nora's hug, I lifted my face and gave Ren a cynical smile. He widened his eyes, astonished at my performance, but didn't expose me to Nora. Of course, he replied, confused by the whole situation. I pulled away from the hug, trying not to let a triumphant smile form on my lips. Thank you, I said, pretending to still be emotional. It means a lot to me. I got up and left the room, happy with the result of my performance, but knowing this was only a temporary solution. Hope it lasts until Jaune returns, I thought hopefully. Nora has always been stubborn, but what surprises me is Ren being more permissive lately with her erratic behavior. What could he be gaining by letting Nora do whatever she wants? I questioned internally. Point of view, Ruby Rose. RIING. I walked around the room not knowing what to do. My thoughts were a whirlwind of guilt, anger and sadness. Do I leave Blake alone or do I go after her? I think with uncertainty. After a few minutes I went back to my bed and sat down, defeated. The silence of the room was deafening. Thank goodness I had Yang to help me. Good morning, sis, Yang said, finishing getting dressed. I'm so inattentive that I hadn't noticed when Yang had woken up. Any plans for the weekend? She asks, trying to cheer me up. Yang knew I was depressed, so she was trying to distract me to cheer me up. But more important than improving my mood was Blake's whereabouts. And that's what I'm going to do, I thought, clenching my fist determinedly. I do have a plan, I replied, getting up with a new spirit, now that I remembered what was most important. We're going to the city to look for Blake. There's a missing member of Team RWBY, and I can't stay in bed all day depressed. I need to find her. Yang blinks her eyes in surprise at my answer, but she sighs in relief as she processes my statement. Understood, Yang replied, smiling cheerfully. Two sisters walking around the city looking for their runaway teammate. Weiss is going too, I added, cutting Yang off. Surprised by my tone, Yang swallowed hard and turned to face Weiss, who had stopped brushing her hair when I mentioned her name. I think Weiss could stay out of this, Yang says with a weak smile. Weiss watches us from the corner of her eye, interested in the conversation, but without showing any emotion. She's going too, I say, imposing myself in an authoritative way. Regardless of internal conflicts, Blake is a member of Team RWBY, and now she's alone in the city, maybe needing help. I finished speaking by grabbing my weapon and cloak, only to turn to face Weiss and Yang, who were staring at me open-mouthed. She's right, Yang, Weiss comments, standing up. Let's bring Blake back first, then we can talk and resolve our differences. I smiled confidently, with my BFF agreeing with me, and turned to Yang once more, who answered me smiling and nodding positively. Great, then get ready, we'll leave in 5 minutes. Since the two of them were already dressed, they just needed to grab their gear to go. Don't worry, Blake, I thought silently. By the end of the day you'll be back on Team RWBY, even if I have to drag you back by your hair. Point of view, Jaune Arc. Ouch, I groaned softly as I woke up. Opening my eyes, I was immediately greeted by a wave of pain radiating from every muscle fiber in my body. The muscles in my pelvis and abdomen in particular felt like they were on fire, a painful reminder of last night's delightful activities. That woman was desperate for a long time, but I'm glad I could quench her thirst. Yesterday I went all out. Actually, it was Audra who went all out on me. If it weren't for my training with Professor Port, my awakened aura and the super soldier serum, I don't think I would have survived, let alone kept up with her pace. The intense pain made me question the sanity of my decision to submit to such an exhausting snoo-snoo that broke the bed and cracked the floor. Who am I kidding? I mentally questioned myself. I'd do it again without a second thought. I just hope my aura can mend my fractured pelvis. I tried to turn in bed, but even this simple movement caused a series of sharp pains in my abdomen. The pain also throbbed in my legs, pulling from my hips down to my ankles. My groin felt like it had been crushed by a hammer, and my abdomen protested with every breath. At least I don't need to be hospitalized. Take that, Ren, your bed-wrecking prowess is no match for mine. A feminine murmur next to me caught my attention, making me turn and contemplate the sleeping barbarian goddess beside me. The sight of her lying there with a satisfied and relaxed smile was a trophy for my performance the night before. As much as I wanted to stay in bed and maybe snuggle between those wonderful breasts, I had things to do today. Yesterday, I spent the entire day at Audra's house without notifying the Belladonnas. I hope I didn't worry Gira and Carly. I carefully got out of bed, moving stiffly like a rusty robot. Even though I was already used to the pain, it was hard to move without making any noise. After a few minutes, I reached the kitchen and put on my scouter, ready to answer church while I prepared breakfast. "What's up, asshole?" said a sarcastic digital voice. Speak of the devil, I thought to myself. Using the scouter lens, Church projected himself as a miniature hologram on the countertop. "Good morning to you too, Leonard," I replied, smiling at him. The tiny image shuddered with disgust. Never call me that again, seriously. Even though he wasn't truly offended, his request was sincere, so I nodded in agreement. While I gathered the ingredients for breakfast, Church informed me that in 2 days, I would receive the first part of the payment from the contract signed between Weiss and the Kingdom of Atlas. He also mentioned that according to explosions recorded by Vale's police, Team RWBY was going through the events of the end of the first season. Despite RWBY being more confident as a leader and Weiss being less combative about teamwork, the final outcome would be the same as the series. According to our projections, Team RWBY will start acting like a real team from now on, Church concluded as I placed bacon in the frying pan. Relief washed over me as Church finished speaking. The good news, combined with the act of cooking, left me almost as relaxed as I was yesterday. "You could make an effort to do that too," the AI added in a reproachful tone. I froze for a second and looked directly at the small avatar that had manifested in front of me, not understanding what he was talking about. "I know you're busy as hell at the start of the year, engaging in a shadow war, creating a new energy matrix system for an entire planet, training your pathetic organic body, losing your virginity, and spearheading an industrial urban revolution for the faunus takes time." I was stunned by everything I had done in such a short time. I knew I wasn't idle, but I didn't have a detailed plan with all the steps to be taken. At most, I had goals I wanted to achieve. "Focus on me, you golden retriever attention span idiot." Annoyed by the gratuitous insult, I stared at Church in silence, waiting for him to get to the point. "What I'm saying is that you need to spend more time with your team." The concern in Church's tone was palpable, even behind his sarcastic personality. He was right. I was getting involved in so many fronts that my attention to my team was falling behind. I took a deep breath, trying to ease the tension forming in my shoulders. "You're right, Church," I admitted with a sincerity that even surprised me. "Isolating myself won't help in the long run, no matter how tempting short-term rewards may be." "That's the spirit, kid." The digital voice sounded softer, as if satisfied with my response. "To achieve this, we'll need to delegate functions," I thought, finishing up cooking. "I'll need a team or several teams to manage menagerie." The aroma of food and hot coffee filled the kitchen, a combination that always brought me a nostalgic comfort. Audra would probably wake up soon, drawn by the smell. I finished setting the table with a simplicity that contrasted with the complexity of my thoughts. I placed 2 cups of coffee, orange juice, scrambled eggs with bacon, and some toast. When I was done, I heard soft footsteps coming from the hallway. "Jaune," a husky female voice asked from the hallway, "what's that delicious smell?" Audra appeared, yawning and fixing her hair, wearing a tight-fitting blouse. "By the way," Church whispered through the scouter, "congrats, kid. If I had a hand, I'd give you a high five." Audra was still waking up, but she looked more relaxed and less stressed. "You came at the right time. I made breakfast." She looked at me in surprise, but I nodded and pointed for her to sit down. After sitting down, I tried to start a conversation with her, asking about other grim hotspots on the island or interesting places to explore. However, Audra only gave me monosyllabic answers or nods. Suspecting that she might want to eat in peace, I stayed quiet and let her eat in silence. That didn't last long. "Why did you make breakfast for me?" Audra asked. Not understanding the question, I responded with the first thing that came to mind. "Ooze," I replied eloquently. "I thought you might be hungry." Audra's facial expression was hard to read. She looked distressed and distracted, as if caught in an internal conflict. Maybe she regretted sleeping with me, I concluded silently. Deciding to give her some space, I announced my departure. If I'm bothering you, I began, catching her attention, I can leave. She mumbled, focusing her attention on me. What are you talking about? I don't want to make you uncomfortable in your own home, especially if you regret what happened last night. Audra stared at me wide-eyed in silence, probably shocked that I read her like an open book. Without further ado, I stood up from the table, but before I could take a single step, a strong female hand grabbed my shirt and lifted me off the ground. What's your problem, Arc? Audra huffed, pulling me close to her face. Stunned, I blinked in confusion. Problem, I repeated, not understanding the question. She had a stern face and teary eyes, using all her willpower not to cry. You stopped me from doing something I would have regretted for the rest of my life, made a barbecue with beer, then apologized for sparing Ilya, carried me home without exposing me to anyone on the island, preserving my dignity, cleaned my house, made dinner, and after a night of sex that broke my bed, you make breakfast and apologize for making me uncomfortable. Why yes, I stuttered, still confused about what was happening. A tear of frustration rolled down her face, and then Audra roared, shaking me in the air. IAARGH, the growl seemed more out of frustration than anger. WHAT is your problem, she shouted, pausing between each word. There is a crazy redhead SHAKINGME, I shouted back, trying to make her stop. Thud. I fell with a thud when Audra finally let go of me. You think I regret last night? She asked, staring at me intensely. Still confused, I nodded in response to her question. Then answer me, Audra said, stepping on my chest. Why did you do so many nice things for me? Because it was the right thing to do, I replied, unsure of where this conversation was going. Audra gave a slight sarcastic smile, shaking her head, but without taking her foot off my chest, she continued to ask. Did you do all this as part of an elaborate scheme to get me into bed last night, or are you regretting what we did last night? The last question had a heavier tone than the first. No to both, I replied promptly. Audra smiled in relief and removed her foot from my chest, extending her hand to me. Thinking she was trying to help me up, I tried to grab her hand, but she ignored it and grabbed my shirt again, lifting me off the ground as if I were made of paper. She stared into my eyes with a seductive smile and gave me a deep kiss. My heart pounded like a drum in my chest when Audra's lips met mine, her touch sending an electric shock through my body. When she pulled away, she brought her lips close to my ear and whispered. The next time you sleep with a woman, let her wake up in your arms, Audra said, putting me down. But I made breakfast, I responded in a whiny tone. Then you better bring her breakfast in bed, Audra said, sitting at the table. Not all women are as understanding as I am. I agree with the crazy barbarian MILF, Church said in my ear. Says the guy who dated Texas, I whispered back. Did you say something? No, nothing, I quickly responded, being placed on the ground with my shirt all stretched out. With a lighter mood, we continued breakfast. Audra asked where we were going today, but I told her I'd spend the day at the Belladonna house to make up for my unannounced absence. After we finished eating, Audra stopped me from washing the dishes, saying I had already done more than enough. Since she seemed happy and relaxed, I decided not to insist and went on my way. But before leaving the house, Audra called me. Hey, come here for a moment, Audra said, pulling me into a tight and warm hug. He breasts, my primal brain thought as she cuddled me against her chest. Little did I know it wasn't that kind of hug. You are a wonderful boy, Jaune, stop patting yourself down. Her words touched something deep inside me, stirring a mixture of emotions, gratitude, melancholy, surprise, and a hint of doubt. I've always been my harshest critic, constantly questioning my abilities, but those simple words from Audra had the power to shake the foundations of my insecurities. I don't know what to say, I stammered, my cheeks flushing with a mix of embarrassment and appreciation. You don't need to say anything, she replied, her lips curling into a gentle smile. Her words were like a balm for my soul, soothing the pain of my self-deprecating thoughts. I pulled her closer, savoring the comfort of her embrace. Thank you, Audra, I murmured, my voice barely a whisper. After a moment, I reluctantly separated from her, the warmth of her hug lingering on my skin. As I walked toward the door, I couldn't help but smile. Stepping out into the fresh morning air, I took a deep breath, feeling rejuvenated and invigorated. The world seemed brighter, more vibrant, as if the sun shone just for me. With newfound determination, I headed towards the Belladonna house, ready to face the day with a positive attitude. Nothing can spoil this wonderful day. Point of view, Audra Taurus. As soon as Jaune went on his way, I decided to sleep a little more. After all, I wouldn't need to protect him today, and I could wash the dishes later. That kid wore me out yesterday, I grumbled, walking with my legs still a bit shaky from the action I hadn't had in a long time. Hard to believe he was a virgin. Slowly, I walked back to the room Jaune had cleaned earlier, which now looked like a war zone. Sheets and pillows were scattered everywhere, and 2 bed legs were broken. To level it, I broke the other 2 before lying down. One day he'll make some girl very happy, I whispered, lying alone in the bed. For some reason, that thought dampened my good mood, but since I was still tired from the night's activities, I stopped thinking about it and relaxed, feeling sleep take over. I know I was just a casual fling for him, but maybe he'll marry someone less selfish, I murmured, already with heavy eyelids. Maybe someone willing to. I couldn't finish speaking as sleep finally took hold. Completely relaxed, I had one of the deepest naps of my life, a sleep that rejuvenated both body and mind. Crash. Until a loud noise suddenly woke me from my glorious restorative sleep. I'm going to kill someone today, I growled, getting up. The noise came from the window being shattered. I quickly got up, a bit groggy from sleep. My heart pounded frantically in my chest as I sat up in bed, adrenaline coursing through my veins, my blood boiling like a scorching river, fueling my fury. Why does this nonsense happen when I finally get laid? Barefoot, I stepped onto the cold wooden floor and left the bedroom, searching the living room for the source of the noise. That's when I saw them, 3 hooded figures wearing white grim masks that concealed their faces. White Fang, I wondered internally. I took a deep breath, calming my racing heart, my survival instincts and years of experience as a huntress taking over. With a quick move, I grabbed a cracked mallet from the wall and charged it with my semblance, making it heavier before throwing it at the nearest invader. The weapon flew straight until it collided with the invader's back, making a blue force field flicker as the man fell forward, stunned and gasping. The other 2 looked at their fallen comrade in surprise. Taking advantage of their distraction, I turned to the nearest wall, looking for more resources to arm myself. My house was decorated with loot from old enemies. I never bothered to maintain these items. After all, they were just trophies, and most had been damaged during battles. With a dull hand axe in my right hand and a stained shield in my left, I charged, slamming the shield into one of the remaining invaders. Klang. I hit the target's back, sending him flying a few meters and crashing face first into the wall with a thud. Pof. As he fell to the ground, a green aura flickered. Well, what do 3 little awakened Aura Fang brats want in my house? I asked sarcastically. You traitorous bitch, the last one standing, a woman with a high-pitched voice, shouted. You were a symbol of Fauna's strength, only to ignore your own race when the fight got tough, she said indignantly. Now you lie down like any cow for the first rich human who comes along. Listen here, you brat, I said, addressing the only female invader. I don't owe any explanations to a useful idiot. You old cow, the young woman growled. How much did you get to let that disgusting human soften your second-rate flesh? A vein popped on my forehead. Fury and hatred boiled in my stomach with an intensity I hadn't felt in years. I started huffing heavily, as if trapped in a low-oxygen room. My vision turned blood-red as I lost control over my reason. Crack. The floor creaked and cracked under my weight, increased by my activated semblance. Although fighting with extra weight was harder and more tiring, I could put that weight behind my blows, causing much more damage. The terrorist in front of me gulped, taking a step back as she heard the floor groan from my weight adjustment. The funniest part was that all this rage wasn't because of the insults to me. GIAWWRR, I roared, leaping at her. But because of what she said about that goofball with a heart of gold. My target tried to turn and run, but I landed a precise kick to her ribs, making the invader double over and fly into the wall where her partner had crashed. Unlike her partner, she didn't fall to the ground. I slammed into her with my shield in a tackle so strong we crashed through the wall together. CIASSSSHHH. Arg, she groaned, spitting blood. Despite the impact, I didn't slow down. I kept the momentum to prevent her body from detaching from the shield. I roared, accelerating. Please, no, she whimpered, begging. In my fury, I could hear what was happening around me, and with a great effort I could calm down and spare her. But I didn't want to spare her. I wanted to teach this brat a lesson in respect. Using my semblance, I increased my body weight even more, and collided with another wall with 3 times the previous impact force. CIASSSSSSHHHH. When the sunlight touched my skin, I realized I was outside my house. I slowed my charge and looked at my victim. The invader lay on the ground, groaning in pain as her aura shattered. From inside the house, the other 2 invaders came out, and when they noticed their ally on the ground, they were wide-eyed. Still in a fury and with the extra weight from my semblance, I charged at them, roaring. I beat the 2 with my dull axe until their auras shattered. Even though the fight was quick, I was exhausted and panting. Fighting with my semblance increasing my weight allowed me to overpower any opponent in short fights, but the fatigue felt like I had run a marathon for hours. With the 3 Fang invaders at my feet, my blood started to cool as my heavy breathing helped me recover my strength. As I tried to catch my breath and gather my thoughts, a high-pitched whistling sound cut through the air. I quickly raised the old shield and blocked an arrow. I looked in the direction of the arrow and saw a hooded Fang agent aiming a crossbow at me. Focused on the shooter, I didn't notice a small sphere rolling on the ground until it touched my foot. What the... Boom! The sphere exploded with a muffled bang, and dense smoke quickly spread through the area. My eyes burned and my vision blurred. I covered my mouth and nose with my hand, trying to avoid inhaling the smoke, but the substance was potent, and since I was panting initially, I inhaled a large amount of it. My legs wobbled, and I had to lean against the wall's rubble to stay upright. Damn it, I murmured, struggling to stay conscious. It was as if my thoughts were dissipating with the smoke. Fast-acting agent poison, I wondered. 2 figures emerged from the fog, bathed in the evening light, a man with bat wings and a woman with white hair. Such a shame that someone so strong has such an obvious weakness as this physical exhaustion caused by the continuous use of her semblance, said the faunus with spider-grey veins connecting her chest to her wrist. Just irritate you a little, and you defeat yourself. But your strength is undeniable, you deserve your reputation, said the bat-winged faunus sarcastically, and it's no use calling for help, the streets are empty. All the civilians are at Jaune Arc's trial. The voices sounded distant and distorted, as if coming from a dream or nightmare. I tried to identify the direction, but my head was spinning and my legs gave way, causing me to fall to the ground. I will break, I murmured, my voice a weak whisper. I tried to get up, but my body wouldn't respond. Whatever was in that dense smoke was defeating me. Each breath seemed to steal more of my strength. A strong hand grabbed my arm, pulling me back to reality. I was too weak to fight, but the need to resist still burned inside me. I tried to struggle, but it was useless. They lifted me easily, and I felt the world spin around me. She won't last much longer, the woman said disdainfully. Let's take her. The last thing I saw before everything went dark was the shadow of a cruel smile under the white mask, and then darkness enveloped me completely. Point of view, Jaune Arc. The morning sun greeted me with a warm embrace, casting a golden glow over my face as I stretched, feeling a sense of happiness wash over me. Today is going to be a great day, I feel it in my bones. Walking through the streets of Cuicuana, I couldn't help but smile from ear to ear. Everything seemed so full of energy, a symphony of sights, sounds, and smells that filled me with a refreshing sense of life. I took a deep breath, savoring the vibrant atmosphere. I was so lost in my thoughts, enjoying the lively environment, that I didn't notice the strange looks I was receiving from people around me. At first I dismissed it as my imagination, but as I kept walking, the stares grew more intense, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Is it just me, or is everyone pissed at me? I murmured quietly. You might be right, Church commented worriedly in my ear. Just in case, I'll wake up the boozy half-maiden. Until she gets there, don't do anything stupid. I stopped and took out my scroll to check myself in the selfie camera. My face was clean, my hair as messy as always, and I was wearing my usual huntsman outfit. There's nothing unusual about my appearance, I thought to myself, so why are people looking at me like I'm some kind of criminal? Shaking off the discomfort, I decided to ignore them and continue on my way. But as I walked, I noticed people whispering behind their hands and pointing at me. Some even crossed the street to avoid me. Seeing the negative reactions to my presence, I started to feel nervous as a pit formed in my stomach. I tried approaching a few people to ask what was wrong, but they just gave me vague answers or ignored me completely. The situation was becoming increasingly bizarre, leaving me more and more confused. As I passed by a group of young fauna students, their laughter and chatter abruptly stopped when they saw me. They looked at me with a mix of fear and disgust, then quickly moved away. I was mortified. What did I do to make them hate me? I questioned myself internally. Not even on my first day did they avoid me like this. Growing more uncomfortable with the situation, I decided to run towards the Belladonna household. In a few minutes I arrived at the front of the house, but as soon as the guards spotted me, they pointed their spears in my direction. "Halt," one of them shouted. "Where do you think you're going?" he demanded, glaring at me furiously. "What are you talking about?" I asked, confused. "I'm Jaune Arc, the human who's been staying here." Before I could finish my explanation, I was cut off by a shout from behind me. "Stop right there, human," an angry voice yelled at me. Surprised by the shout, I turned around only to face 4 guards in armor with lasguns pointed at me. From the side lighting of the guns, they were all powered on and ready to fire, something only possible if a non-white Fang member was using the weapon. "Hands up or we shoot," the same Faunus from before shouted, aiming his lasgun at me. I raised my hands, both confused and irritated. Being arrested is already bad enough, but being arrested without knowing why, by a militia I armed myself, is unbelievably frustrating. Author's note: there is a smut scene written between Jaune and Audra, but I won't make audio of it for YouTube for obvious reasons. You can read this scene for free in Chapter 28, anywhere I published this story for free. Chapter 29, Law and Order, Kuhukwana. Point of view: Jaune Arc. Sitting in the communal cell, aka the only cell on the entire island, I am left alone by the other criminals who share it with me. When I arrived, a big, fat guy with a pig's nose came up to me with all that talk about being the big guy in prison and how he was going to make me his bitch. I could have dealt with him without any problem, but it was more fun to offer cigarettes and beer to the other prisoners who beat him. The guy almost died. I felt so sorry that I cured him using a senzu bean, and now he acts as my bodyguard. In prison you don't fuck with people who can conjure up cigarettes and drinks, I thought to myself, enjoying the silence. Until I get bored within 10 minutes. Waiting for this trial without doing anything is a pain. To pass it I could create a television and watch some anime. "Attention ladies," exclaims a female voice entering the cell room. "I need to talk to the blonde human, so the rest of the trash goes to the back of the room." The prisoners got up and moved around, grumbling and complaining while I stared in surprise at who had entered. "Did you miss me, boss?" asked Amber in her original appearance, but dressed as a guard and with a fake fox tail on her back. I approached the cell door smiling and answered, "My longing for you must have been less intense than your hangover." In response, Amber hissed as if I had touched an open wound. "Fuck you, brat," she grumbled, pretending to be offended. "But seriously now, why haven't you left yet?" "I think I can use this judgment to my advantage," I responded in a whisper so that the other prisoners couldn't hear me. "What are you talking about, brat?" Amber asked, also whispering. "I know I'm innocent and I didn't do anything wrong. If half of what Church told me is true, Audra would agree that you did a lot of rights." "A gentleman does not boast of his achievements," I responded in a sophisticated tone. "Oh damn," Amber swore, "you really are Port's student. If I prove my innocence in this trial in front of everyone, I will improve Menagerie's human-faunus relations." "And take credibility away from White Fang," added Audra. "White Fang?" I questioned, confused. Don't you know why you were arrested? Amber asked suspiciously. I knew I was forgetting something. Bang! A metallic thud echoed through the room. How are you, boss? Asked the pig faunus. Relax, the jailer just slipped and hit her forehead on the cell. Amber sighs tiredly, but immediately looks up with an irritated expression. Whatever the accusation is, it must have to do with the White Fang attack on your jet, Amber said in a didactic tone. Confused, I stared at the dark-skinned woman with a raised eyebrow. They tried to break in, but the new guy managed to deal with them alone. You didn't help. I was having the biggest hangover of my life, while an old hillbilly robot was beating up terrorists to the sound of an accordion and shouting, "Yeehaw," every 2 minutes. That couldn't have been good for your headache, I commented in solidarity. In response, Amber glared at me furiously, with a bulging vein pulsing on her forehead. Another thing, Amber said in a calmer and more serious tone. Before I came here, I stopped by Audra's house, and I think she was kidnapped or something worse. A knot formed in the pit of my stomach as a chill ran down my spine. Her, I questioned, feeling bad on the stomach. 3 walls of her house were destroyed, signs of struggle everywhere, weapons scattered across the floor, Amber said, pausing so I could digest the news. I followed their trail to the entrance of a cave, but I came looking for you when I heard the local guards celebrating your arrest. Is she alive? Amber swallows hard before answering my question, as if she's gathering up the courage to answer me. I don't want to give you false hope, but I doubt they bothered attacking her in her own home just to kill her. I understand, I respond in a low whisper. Can you rescue her? Not without blowing my cover and drawing negative attention to you. Without thinking twice, I invoke my power. Multiverse crafting system. What would you like to do? Magic, 75.287 points. Aura, 100%. Jaune, what are you staring at? Focused on the task, I ignore Amber and give the mental command to do the items. 3 level 5 caster invisibility potions, 2 beans of the gods and a scouter similar to mine. A multiverse crafting system. This will cost 3,500 magic points. Magic, 75.287 points. Aura, 100%. The golden mist manifests, creating the items in my hands. I was so flustered and rushed that I didn't even notice that I was able to create more than 1 item at once. The beans are to heal Audra, and you if you need to, these invisibility potions. Invisibility, Amber asks, cutting me off. Don't interrupt me, I complained. Invisibility only lasts 5 minutes, and if you attack someone the effect ends automatically. How specific? Scouter is for you to have better contact with Church. If you need anything, he'll send the robots to help you or come and tell me that you're in danger. Amber gives me a warm smile and a kiss on the forehead. Don't worry, I'll bring her back, she assures me in a sincere tone. Not knowing how to respond, I just breathed a sigh of relief, as if I had been holding my breath since she started speaking. Still disguised as a guard, Amber leaves the room carrying with her the items I gave her. Good luck, Amber, I think silently. Were you nailing the jailer before coming to jail, boss? Asks the pig-nosed faunus. Respect. Shut up, Pumbar, I grumbled angrily at him. How do you know my name? Pumbar asked in disbelief. Serious? The rotund man nods his head, leaving me stunned for a few seconds. You know what, fuck it, I declared with my patience exhausted. Who wants to see a movie? Point of view, Sienna Khan. You crossed the line, Sienna, roared Chieftain Belladonna, his voice filled with a fury he hadn't shown in a long time. We agreed that the White Fang would not interfere with Jaune Arc's capture. Exactly, I replied, maintaining my formal posture in front of the Belladonna house. And that's why he was captured by Quana's guard, not my agents. And since when does the guard obey your orders? He questioned, his indignation was palpable, much less to learn from someone in front of my own home. A sadistic smile spread across my face as I prepared to rub the truth in his face. Ever since our chieftain invited an aggressive and dangerous human to walk on our precious island sanctuary. Gira's eyes widened in shock at my statement, but as soon as he recovered, he fixed me with an intense gaze. Grrr, he growls frustratedly in my direction. It's really amazing how things have suddenly changed. Less than 48 hours ago, I was consumed by the enigma that was Jaune Arc. I never doubted that the human was a threat to the White Fang cause. The problem was that he was as cunning as he was dangerous. According to Ilya, he was mapping the island and cataloguing our natural resources, surely paving the way for future Atlas colonizers who would enslave us with the help of the SDC. The problem was that the girl had no concrete proof, not even an ally who had seen the maps firsthand with her. And to make matters worse, the foolish young woman acted prematurely and attempted to murder the human. If this story were to leak, it would be used by our enemies as a propaganda vehicle, solidifying the narrative that the White Fang is just a bloodthirsty terrorist organization that murders innocent humans whose only crime was to have healed the wounded and fed orphans. However, the young man made a mistake. In an altercation with a group of hunters, Jaune Arc murdered a faunus and left 9 injured. According to the testimonies, it was a dispute over prey between the human and the faunus hunters involved. The human had started the conflict by shooting at the unarmed hunters, seriously wounding them and breaking their legs and arms, only to then leave them to die in the menagerie desert, resulting in the death of one of them. Although I wasn't happy with the amount of injured faunus, the timing couldn't have been better. The human's reputation was growing too fast, but with this incident and my agents spreading the news to everyone on the island, the evil was nipped in the bud, and we could finally expel him from menagerie and, with the help of public opinion, perhaps even banish the presence of any humans. Where was he taken? Chieftain asks, already out of patience. Containing my joy at his stress, I make a small bow and turn around speaking. Please follow me, I speak with a polite and respectful tone. The walk was more pleasant than I dare admit out loud, with the population gossiping about the impounded human. Did you know what the human did? 1 dead and 9 hunters hospitalized. This way many families will go hungry. I heard he was staying at the chieftain's house. Why would he need the bushmeat? What a selfish human. And to think he almost tricked us, pretended to be a good person doing charity work at the orphanage. It seems he beat up the hunters to show that he was superior to all faunus. He broke their legs and left them to die in the desert. It's a miracle that so many are alive. I bet hunting wasn't even in his interest, he just wanted to torture them. Give him to me, I can fix him, you don't know him like I do. It's a good thing he was arrested before he did anything to the children at the orphanage. Gira huffs angrily, every second he becomes more frustrated with the gossip. I see that your lies have already spread like flames in dry leaves, said the chieftain, irritated. The only thing that White Fang agents spread was the fact that a human attacked innocent faunus. I have no control over what people invented based on the truth. Not even you, venerable chieftain, have that control. In a few minutes of walking, we reached a large wooden building of the guard barracks, the second largest building on the island, second only in size to the Belladonna mansion. As crime is low in Menagerie, we do not have an entire building dedicated to the incarceration of individuals. However, in the guard barracks, we have a large community cell, housing the few faunus who have broken the law of our island. What is this silence? Gira mutters in confusion. I was so intoxicated by my good mood, regarding the human situation, that I didn't notice the strange silence as soon as we entered the barracks. And where are the guards? He continued, questioning the chieftain. My eyes widen in shock when I stop to look around and see that he's right. The tables were empty, and the courtyard where the recruits trained was also deserted. But where is? I tried to ask only to be cut off. Silence, the chieftain said, pointing to the door of the community cell, which was ajar. We walked silently towards the door. As we got closer, a noise became audible. It sounds like melancholy music and people crying, I questioned out loud. Upon entering the anteroom of the community cell, we are faced with a strange scene. Impossible, I murmur in shock. The inmates and guards were inside the communal cell, sitting in the dark crying and looking at a 100-inch television. You must continue to grow, and eventually you will lend your aid by becoming the next Hashira, said a jovial voice coming from the television. It was a cartoon, and one of the characters was dying. I believe in each and every one of you, At the last line and the image of the character's mother, everyone in the cell began to cry loudly. As unusual as the situation was, my blood boiled when I noticed among the prisoners a clump of blonde hair belonging to a human holding a large bucket of popcorn. "What is the meaning of this?" I screamed furiously. The prisoners and soldiers were startled and looked in our direction. When the guards finally realized that the chieftain and the leader of the White Fang were present, they quickly stood up to salute us. As soon as they lined up, they started with the excuses that they were just making sure that the content the inmates were consuming was not dangerous or inappropriate. Behind me, the chieftain laughed as if this absurdity was expected. "This is a cell, not a cinema," I complain, pointing my finger in the direction of the human watching us while eating popcorn. "And where did you get that television?" The human looked at me with a raised eyebrow. "What television?" he asked, feigning ignorance. "Don't act like an idiot. I am." As soon as I turn around pointing at the monstrous screen, I notice that it has disappeared. Where did it go? The prisoners on the human side began to laugh quietly as if they were naughty children, mocking my confusion. But of course the scum of Faunus society would co-opt with this human trash. A hand placed on my shoulder stops me mid-rant. "Calm down, Sienna, he didn't commit any crime," said the chieftain. "What are you talking about?" I complain more angrily. "The human brought contraband into a cell." "It's not contraband, it's his semblance," says the chieftain in a calm tone. "He had mentioned it to me at my house," the chieftain explains patiently. "That's why the television disappeared. His aura reserves must already be exhausted." As soon as he finishes his explanation, we turn to the human eating popcorn, as if we weren't talking about him. "Where did he get the food?" I asked, looking at the human. He gives a wicked grin and respond. "Smuggling contraband," he responds, laughing. Slap. The sound of the chieftain's facepalm was so loud that it echoed throughout the barracks. I think this human is less cunning than I had theorized. I think to myself. Point of view, Ordre Taurus. I groan in pain as my consciousness returns. All I want is to go back to sleep, so I don't have to deal with this weird headache weighing on my mind. Good morning, sunshine, but an annoying voice forces me to wake up. It's actually night, but that doesn't matter now. Giving up on going back to sleep, I remember the invasion of my house, the fight against members of the Fang. "Where am I?" I mumble with my vision blurry. "Who are you?" I ask the figure of a dark-skinned woman in front of me. In response, she laughs, touching something on her wrist. Although my vision has not returned to 100%, the tone of her skin becomes lighter. I realize that Boudica Nikos is in front of me. "The boss asked me to come get his muscle mommy." I let the comment slide, because I am too groggy to respond at the time. As soon as my vision opens, I notice that I am inside a cell in an underground cave. I try to get up, but I feel a stab of pain in my leg that stops me. The pain in my leg was unbearable, pulsing like a hammer with every beat of my heart. "Everything okay there?" Nikos asks, kneeling next to me. "My leg," I spoke through clenched teeth, holding back the pain. "My femur dislocated from my hip." "Damn," Amber commented, whistling at the damage. "They really beat you up." "No," I grumbled angrily. "They used some drug to put me out and dislocated my leg while I was sleeping." "Why would they do something like that?" Nikos asked, wide-eyed. "To make it easier to deal with me as a prisoner," I responded in a cold tone drenched in hate. When I regained my aura while sleeping, the bone healed in the wrong place, making it almost impossible to put it back into place without help. "Damn, that's why they didn't bother cuffing you," the human commented, understanding the situation. "I have one of Jaune's beans, it will heal you instantly." "Wait," I exclaimed, stopping her. "The bone has already healed. Wrong. If I eat this thing, there is a chance it will make the situation worse." "What do you want to do then?" I looked at Boudica with anger and determination. "Do you know how to put a bone back in place?" The human hesitated for a moment, her eyes traveling over her injured leg. "I've done it a few times in the field, but it was usually for simpler injuries," Boudica explained uncertainly. "Your case is more complex because it took time to heal wrong." If Nikos did something wrong, it could cause irreparable damage, I thought silently. But we have no other option. If you wanted to escape, you needed to be in a condition to fight. Do what you can, I growled, clenching my teeth, but be quick. Nikos nodded with a serious look. She examined the leg carefully, looking for the best angle to apply the force. When she started touching my leg, I closed my eyes tightly, preparing myself for the pain that was to come. With a quick, precise movement, Nikos grabbed my leg and with one pull forced the bone to realign. A whisper escaped my lips in response. Shit. Sweat ran down my face, mixing with the tears that insisted on falling. The pain was unbearable, but I ignored it, focusing on staying calm. After a few seconds of agony, the pain began to subside. I slowly opened my eyes and looked at my leg. It seemed to be in the right place, but the pain was still intense. Did you do it? I asked in a hoarse voice. Nikos nodded, taking a deep breath. Yes, it is in place, but it will hurt for a while if you don't eat the bean. I took the bean without question. I had already seen their miraculous properties working with almshouse people, so there was no reason not to eat it. Gulp. Instantly, as if by magic, I am healed. Besides my leg, the headache and my sore muscles were 100% healed. Now just find an axe and return the favor by breaking all these crazy idiots' legs, I declared, irritated. But before I could take a step, Boudica stepped up with both hands raised, stopping me. Not that I'm against revenge on whoever disabled you, and trust me, I understand a lot about that, she said in a cold tone filled with remorse. Right now Jaune Arc is under arrest or probably on trial. My eyes immediately widened. I quickly grabbed Nikos by the shoulders, pressing my fingers into the flesh of her shoulders. Repeat, I spoke in a dry and harsh tone. Amber sighed tiredly but answered me quickly. Jaune was arrested as soon as he left your house. Right now he should be on trial. All the anger within me towards the White Fang evaporated and was replaced by a feeling of urgency. Do you have a plan to get us out of here quickly? Giving a slutty smile, Amber pulls out 2 vials with black liquid inside them. Let's just say Jaune is capable of planning, sometimes, Amber says with a shy laugh. As soon as she stops laughing, she drinks the strange liquid, and her body begins to dissolve into thin air. Point of view, Gira Belladonna. It was obvious that the situation Jaune found himself in was nothing more than a plan devised by deluded members of the White Fang. Isn't it a simple coincidence that when the boy was finally gaining notoriety among the faunus, he attacked innocent hunters, for desert game meat on top of that? By the gods, the boy distributes food among the inhabitants of the almshouse. He clearly doesn't need to hunt lizards in a grim-infested desert to survive. I think silently to myself. And now I'm sitting here at a table as a judge in a makeshift courtroom to judge the first human to commit a crime in menagerie. Sienna, of course, volunteered to be the prosecutor for the trial. Firstly, I didn't want to let someone who actively fights against humans participate in this trial, but the popular outcry spoke loudly when Sienna was applauded by the population for her search for justice against the terrible human. In the end I had to give in, and she took the job. However, as a compromise, I handpicked the jury, 10 sensible citizens who had not been directly helped by Jaune Arc. This way Sienna could not claim that the human had bought his freedom with bribes. Now, for Jaune's defense, I imagined that Audra would play the role of lawyer, but apparently no one could find her. Fortunately for the young man, Mrs. Kuka Brasa, the elderly turtle faunus who takes care of the almshouse, was willing to defend the boy. Can we start? Questioned Sienna impatiently. I take a deep breath, preparing myself to speak loudly and with authority to begin the trial. Today we will try the defendant Jaune Arc, accused of murdering an innocent faunus and assaulting 9 others. This court promises to seek the truth impartially, regardless of any prejudice or external pressure. Jaune Arc, standing, raises his head and fixes his eyes on me. His gaze is firm but not arrogant. How does the defendant plead? I ask the human. Not guilty, Your Honor, Jaune responds, his voice clear and without hesitation. I give a slight nod, acknowledging his statement. I know it's impossible for Arc to have beaten these faunus without good reason, but my personal beliefs should not interfere with due process. I need to remain impartial, guided only by the facts presented. I call to testify Mr. Milhouse Pettigrew, says Sienna in an authoritative voice. This individual was the only one of the supposedly attacked faunus who was still able to move. A pale, dry face draws attention as he stands up from the audience sitting at the back of the room. He is a thin man whose animal trait was a hairless tail, similar to that of a rat or possum. His red and swollen eyes brimmed with tears that ran down his thin face. With his voice cracking with emotion, Milhouse raised a trembling hand, pointing at Jaune, who was watching him with a serene and unshakable expression. This human monster," he exclaimed, his voice filled with resentment and pain. "He attacked us without mercy. He beat me to the ground, stepping on my face as if I were a Grimm who deserved to be killed." Milhouse's words echoed through the room, fueling the anger and outrage of the crowd watching in the back. Whispers and murmurs filled the room, while Sienna Khan watched the scene with a triumphant smile on her lips. He continued his account, exaggerating every detail, turning a simple confrontation into a brutal aggression. He described how Jaune had struck him ferociously. Ignoring his cries of pain and pleas for mercy, tears ran freely down his face, staining his worn shirt and fueling the audience's commotion. He stole our prey," Milhouse whimpered, his voice broken with sobs. "How am I going to feed my family when that monster attacked me and took everything?" A murmur of indignation passed through the room. Food was a precious commodity in menagerie, and the idea of a human stealing it from a defenseless faunus would be seen as an act of extreme cruelty. Milhouse took advantage of the moment to fall to his knees. "Please," he pleaded in my direction, his voice thick with emotion. "Do justice. This human cannot go unpunished for his crimes. He needs to be punished for his atrocities." It didn't take discerning eyes to notice the theatricality of the witness's performance. It was clear that his story was embellished with lies and exaggerations. However, he also knew that the mob was thirsty for revenge, and that any attempt to question the faunus account would be seen as an act of betrayal of their kind. A buzz of approval went through the room, as Sienna Khan watched the scene with an even wider smile. She had managed to inflame the crowd against Jaune, and now she just needed to wait for the trial to convict the young human to complete her revenge. Meanwhile, Jaune remained standing, observing everything with the same serene and unshakable expression. He knew he was being framed, that the accusations against him were false and unfounded, but he also knew it was futile to try to defend himself in a court filled with anger and prejudice. "Now it's the defence's turn," I announced, looking at Jaune and Mrs. Brasser. Strangely enough, Jaune remained calm in silence. Even if he was innocent, any normal person in his place would be stressed or at least worried. "This boy must have nerves of steel." With firm steps and a penetrating gaze, Kookabrasa, the ancient turtle faunus, approaches the witness. Despite her diminutive appearance, her imposing presence silences the crowd, while a faint buzz of curiosity hangs in the air. "Mr. Pettigrew," Kooka begins, his deep, husky voice echoing through the room. "In your statement, you mentioned being attacked by Jaune Arc in the desert and that he stole your game. Could you detail how this happened?" Milhouse, still with tears in his eyes and his hairless tail shaking, nodded. He retells the story, describing in vivid detail how Jaune attacked him without warning, stealing his bushmeat and leaving him injured and humiliated. Kooka listens intently, her keen eyes observing the witness's every movement and expression. Suddenly, she stops the story. "I notice that you do not specify the type of game you captured." He babbles for a second. "What does it matter?" "I'm just an old lady wanting to know more details," she responds with a friendly smile. "An experienced hunter like you wouldn't have any problems reporting about his hunt to an old woman like me, right?" Milhouse swallowed hard as beads of sweat began to form on his forehead. "Oh, of course it's no problem," he responds, stuttering. He drew out the last word, looking around as if the answer was in the courtroom itself. Even trying to maintain my impartiality, I end up unintentionally smiling at the witness's stumble in words, now that Milhouse shows the classic signs of a liar who has been discovered. The sweat of nervousness, the stammering of uncertainty, the eyes that wander without looking at anyone directly. I was waiting for Sienna to show a little apprehension at her witness's nervousness, but she seemed more confused than anxious, as if she herself wasn't understanding what was happening. Didn't she orchestrate this whole farce? I thought in silence. "Dear," the witness shouts, "our group had hunted 2 deers and 3 wild boars." Kooka shakes her head, ruminating on Milhouse's statement for a few seconds before continuing. "Impressive, this amount of game would give something around 270 kg, 600 pounds of meat. The elderly woman murmurs, turning to the audience. I'm not a hunter, but this amount of meat could sustain something like 16 families of 4 for an entire month, even more if rationed and other ingredients added. The audience whispers in agreement with the lady's statement, while some even go wide-eyed at Milhouse's statement. This just adds to the tragedy that has happened on our island, Sienna declares, standing up. Jaune Arc, in addition to attacking the hunters, directly harmed those who would be fed. Some in the audience became agitated along with the leader of the White Fang, joining in a chorus of agreement that the human's crime had been more serious than it had been presented. A minority, on the other hand, were confused by what they were hearing, as if the story wasn't making sense. Mr. Pettigrew, Mrs. Brasser says, approaching the witness with a more severe posture and tone, your group of hunters were cruelly attacked by the human Jaune Arc and had their hunt, consisting of 2 deer and 3 boars, stolen by Jaune Arc, right? Milhouse had flinched, but he responded by nodding his head, fearing the terrible lady less than 1.5 meters tall, 5 feet, questioning him. No more questions for this witness, Your Honor, Kuka declares, smiling serenely. Despite having only reinforced, or even worsened, Arc's situation, the elder turtle faunus seemed happy with what she had achieved in her questioning, while Sienna Khan was increasingly less confident of her position. I think that with this the verdict is already more than obvious, says Sienna, smiling. We can now talk about the Arc's punishment. Meanwhile, Jaune Arc remained calm and collected. His steady gaze now seemed more determined than ever, reflecting the confidence of someone who knew his own innocence. He didn't need to say a word. His unshakable silent posture and relaxed smile spoke for itself. Actually, said the old lady, I would like to call one last witness. Sienna stares at her with an arched eyebrow for just a second, before placing her eyes on the human next to her. Humph, Sienna grumbles. Call the human to testify if you want, know that I will also question him if you do. Giving a wicked smile, the faunus lady declares out loud. I call to testify old Ben Kenobi. Kenobi, I question internally. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
I hope you enjoyed my work. If you'd like more, check out the links in the video description. Goodbye for now.